Hey, how's it going, everybody? Tim here, back with another video. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about how minimalism has changed my life. Now, I made a video on this same topic a couple years ago. I think it was late 2015. So, two and a half years ago. But I wanted to revisit this topic because I feel like my life has changed even more in those couple years, and minimalism has a lot to do with it. And also I've been getting, some new subscribers in that time period. And I know sometimes, it's hard to go back and look at someone's older videos. So just to kind of share my minimalism stories with some of the new subscribers to this channel, I figured I would make this video again and kind of do a 2018 edition. And unlike some of my videos where I kind of go over what I'm going to say in my head a couple days before, this one's just going to be kind of off the cuff. Just going to tell my story and just from the heart, talk about what minimalism has done for me. So first, I want to talk about my life before minimalism. I feel like I was just kind of your average guy. I worked about 50 hours average a week, car, apartment, every now and then a girlfriend, and, just your average kind of guy, living an average life, working lawn maintenance. That was a field I'd been in for, most of my adult life, either in the plant nursery business or mowing grass, things like that. But, it was weird. There was always something seemed missing. I know for one thing, it seemed like I could never get ahead. I was working all these hours and I've always had a great work ethic and I've always saved money well, didn't always blow money. There was times in my life I did, my early 20s, I used to, yeah. But, as I got older in my 30s, it seemed like, I'd become kind of, a fiscally responsible person. I was living frugally, but it seemed like I could never get ahead. And I would just kind of pull up beside people in nicer cars than me because I always drove beaters because I'm too cheap to buy a nicer car. But I also, I'd pull up beside some people and I'd be like, you know what? Even if I wanted to, I couldn't afford that car. I'm like, what are these people doing? Like, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I get ahead? Now I know that, most of these people were in debt. So they didn't really have more money than me. They just had more debt than me. But at the time, that didn't really occur to me. Also, I would see people who had nicer places than me. I mean, I had a decent apartment. It was clean. It was in a good part of town. But I would see people with like these nice condos and things like that. And I would be like, how are these people doing it? Why can't I have that? But on the same token, I felt like I didn't really want those things. So there was kind of just this kind of warring inside of me, but I knew something was off. Something was missing. Like I knew this lifestyle I was living wasn't totally, me or what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But you know how it is. A lot of times you just roll with it because you don't think there's anything else. You just think, well, I need to make more money then, and that'll make me happier. The day, excuse me, the day I get that nicer car or I get that nicer condo, then I'll be happy. You just don't really realize, what's going on internally. Excuse me. Because at this time, I kind of had no concept of minimalism or simple living, anything like that. So, I'll tell you what kind of was the catalyst, what really pushed me towards this whole minimalism thing. I was working like 50 plus hours a week, but I also was doing a lot of like side eBay hustling. So I would do a lot of dumpster diving. I lived in Gainesville, Florida, which is a college town. So when the college kids were, changing semesters and things, not semesters, but the school year was swapping out, a lot of them would change apartments. They'd throw most of their stuff away and then just buy new stuff because I guess it's too much trouble to move. But I would do a lot of dumpster diving, pull like all the stuff out the dumpster, sell it on eBay. Because of that, I just had a huge, pile of stuff in my living room in my apartment. And I would go through and sell it. And I was making good money on eBay selling people's trash. I loved it because there's no overhead. You pull a name brand shirt out of the dumpster, you wash it, you put it on eBay for $20, you sell it. And that's, other than the price you paid to wash it, you got no overhead. And it was a great hustle. But as a byproduct of that, like I said, I had tons of stuff in my living room. And over, a couple of months, it just, you'd walk in the door and you would just feel the weight of, the stuff on me. I would just feel the weight of all this stuff. And I was just like, oh, I got to get rid of this stuff. I got to sell it. But some of it wasn't selling. And just one day it came to a head and I was like, I got to get rid of this stuff. I had made, enough money off the stuff I sold. So I just started like donating. I was pulling up to the Goodwill, every weekend with bags of stuff. And I know people didn't know what to think because I'm pulling up to the Goodwill with bags like women's clothes and of all different, sizes and shapes. And I know they probably thought I was like robbing people, but then they'd be like, why is he donating it? Is this some type of Robin Hood thing? No, I don't know. But they would look at me funny because I was there every weekend just donating stuff. A lot of stuff I threw away. I continued to try to sell some stuff on eBay, but it was mainly just like getting rid of it. I had to. The weight of all the possessions of that stuff was just too much. And once I got rid of all that and I was able to walk into my living room and just be free, just feel this sense of lightness, that was a profound change in my life. I was just like, man, this is great. Like, I like getting rid of this stuff. And that's when I got even more involved, like online, on YouTube, looking at videos about minimalism and letting go. And I kind of was always attracted to like the tiny house movement. So, that goes hand in hand with minimalism. And I start watching videos about van dwelling. And during this time period, all of it started to click in my head. I also was a huge comic book geek. I had, over 1,000 comic books in my collection. And, one of the things that happened naturally after I got rid of just excess stuff that wasn't even my own is I started getting rid of some of my own possessions because I liked the feeling so much. And that was one of the things I was like, Tim, why do you have this huge, comic book collection you don't do anything with? A, you could use that money, and B, it's taking up space. It's a lot of worry. Every time I went out of town to visit, I had a girlfriend at the time. Every time I went out of town to visit her, I worried that someone was going to break into my apartment, steal my comic books, because I had some really, for me, high-priced comic books. And it just, one of the things I did, I started downsizing that. I just was like, what's the point? And it was great. I started feeling lighter once again. But also I started, selling these books on eBay and getting money coming in. And I was able to do things I needed to do, like go to the dentist and, buy stuff I needed. It was just a great feeling. And so I just started going through my apartment and, anything I wasn't using or didn't need went, more Goodwill donations, a lot of stuff in the dumpster in my apartment complex. I used to just put stuff out by the road and put free on it. And I used to love to just sit and watch people come and like pick up my junk. But basically 90% of my possessions went. Like I just, I even got rid of like the couches in my living room. Like I just, like I had like 3. I got rid of like 2 of them in the beginning. I just love this feeling of coming into my apartment and everything was in its proper place and everything was clean and just that freedom and that lightness and not having to worry about all these possessions. So after that, just naturally, one of the things that popped in my head was, man, I don't need all this space in my apartment. I was just like, there's nothing here. I honestly thought about like renting out half of my apartment, let somebody else rent that out because I was like, I can just live in the living room. Like, I don't really need all this space, And then the thought came to me, why not do, if you don't really need to be all this space in this apartment, why not, go to something smaller? Or why are we even in this apartment? I was like, what are we doing here? I was like, well, it's for work. And then I ended up actually quitting the job I was at and I started working like temporary. The temp agency in Gainesville was great. They always had work for me whenever I went. So I started working temp jobs and that just got my whole mind rolling on, if you could find some work somewhere else other than here, you could go. Like, you don't care about the apartment anymore. It's way too big for you. You really don't kind of want to be in this town. Like, I'd done Gainesville. I was like, why do I need to be here anymore? And so that got the ball rolling about trying to travel more. It's something I always wanted to do. Never thought I could do it. But now my possessions were so few. I was just like, I could do like some of these people do and just pack all my possessions in a couple suitcases and be gone. And this was a feeling I would have never 3 months before that, 6 months before, thought that I could ever do any of that. And then once that idea came in my head and I saw it was a possibility, I was just all in trying to find options to do it. I was just like, yeah, let's do this. I was scared. I was nervous, but I was like, things have got to change. Like I feel like this happens a lot with people in minimalism. You're just making these life changes and it starts feeling good and you don't want it to stop. He's like, I don't just want to stop here and stagnate. I want to do something more. I want to do something crazier. And that's why I decided to travel more. It's like, I'm going to figure it out. And I did woofing, which is working worldwide, working on organic farms. I did that on a farm for a month. Didn't really like that. Not that the organization is bad, but the experience I had was bad. And then I hopped into seasonal work, which is what I do now, because I realized that I could go to any of these seasonal jobs, just take all my possessions in a couple suitcases. They gave me a place to stay. A lot of these places, they feed you. So there never, there wasn't a downside. The first seasonal job I had was Yellowstone. Everything was included. All I needed to do was show up there. So that's what I did. Like I said, I was scared because I was like, well, if this doesn't work out, I have no home technically to go to. That was the first time I was, technically homeless. And it was a scary feeling because my whole life I had somewhere dedicated. This is mine. You can always go back there. This is where you live. It was a scary feeling to not have a set place to live. But because of minimalism and because I had realized that this is the first time in my life really that I'd made a drastic change in my life. And I realized I could do it. I had the power within me to shape my life, to do what I wanted to do. I didn't have to blindly follow what everyone else was doing. That gave me the courage to start up seasonal work. And I've been doing that ever since. I did have to go back to Florida for a few months last year, work some things out. But other than that, been on the road working seasonally. And that's been a huge change for me. Just the people I've met, the places I've been able to go, the experiences I've had, the traveling I've been able to do, all of it for minimalism. And living that lifestyle kind of keeps me in that minimalist zone because I always have to pare my possessions down for when I go to the next seasonal job. I only have, so big of a room, so I can't have things, so it keeps me in that zone. And that's a huge change for me in my life. None of that would have came about because if I didn't discover minimalism. Another huge change in my life that I'm extremely proud of that I've talked about on this channel before was that I was finally, about a year ago, able to quit drinking. This was a problem I had for many, 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 many years. And it caused all types of trouble in my life. And right around that time when I discovered minimalism was not the worst times actions-wise, because when I was younger in my 20s, I really did some crazy stuff, drunk. But it was the worst times drinking-wise because I was just coming home, drinking myself to sleep every night. It was the bad drinking times emotionally because I was drinking because I just wasn't happy. After that, there was still a while after I discovered minimalism, started doing seasonal work, that I was still drinking and still had some bad experiences. I'm not going to lie. But over time, I feel like part of that too was the idea that I had the power to change my life. And as I moved around more and met more people and just my world expanded, I just realized I couldn't keep, ruining friendships and people looking at me weird everywhere I went because I would get drunk and do something stupid. And eventually I just had enough. Couldn't do it. Just had to quit. And been sober so far since I quit, and hopefully I'll never take another drink again. But that was, I contributed a lot of that to minimalism and, because it got me to different places and got me to a different mindset. And also too, I think a lot of it is, I think a lot more along the lines of what do I need in my life these days? And if I don't need it, I don't want it. And drinking was something I didn't need in my life. And so it went against, drinking every night and wasting that much money, and then just doing something I didn't need to do, went against my principles. That's one of my major principles now is if you don't need it in your life, don't have it in your life. And so here was this thing I was doing nightly on a regular basis that didn't need to be a part of my life. So I think minimalism helped with my mindset that helped me to quit drinking. And so those are just a couple ways that minimalism helped to change my life, but they're the big ones. And they may even sound, as you say them, pretty simple, but they were profound changes in my life. And I can honestly say, if I had not discovered minimalism, I would still probably be living in Gainesville, that same apartment, working somewhere that did not fulfill me. That's no disrespect to the job. Glad to have it. Had a great boss there, but working somewhere that did not fulfill me, drinking myself to sleep every night, every 3-4 months, getting drunk, doing something stupid, not happy. Probably still in the whole mindset of I need to get more money so I can get more possessions so I can be happy. And even if I had discovered some kind of way to find more money, I still wouldn't be happy. I'd still be in that cycle. I would have never got to where I'm at now, where possessions don't matter to me. Money matters far less to me than it ever has. And I'm happier. You know, I'm sober. You know, I have great experiences. Like, I really and truly feel blessed in my life these days. And that's, I was telling a friend of mine that the other day, like, I really and truly feel blessed. I was blessed before because always have had a good life. You know, I'll never, you know, I'm truly grateful for my life, but I didn't realize how blessed I was. These days, I feel blessed. Like, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, thank you. You know, like, I feel blessed every single day. You know, it's good to be living a life you want to live, doing the things you want to do. And I've got even more changes in my life in store for the future. Once again, all of them stemming from minimalism. And so the whole point of this video is if you haven't started your minimalistic journey, go for it. It will change your life for the better. I don't know anyone who, like, minimalism changed their life for the worse. I know people who stopped minimalism, but I feel like they had good rewards out of it. And if you are on your minimalistic journey, keep going. You know, keep that feeling going. Keep on with the, you know, with the changes. You know, do something crazier, do bigger stuff. You know, the minimalism is a great springboard to you living the life that you want to live. And maybe you thought you couldn't. But, you know, just know you can do whatever you want in your life. You can change your life. And for a lot of us, minimalism is the key that opens the door to that believing. So stick with it. Keep going. Yourself a year from now will thank yourself now. Trust me. So, yeah, I know this was kind of a long video, but this is a story I'm passionate about. Just wanted to put that out there again in case, you know, anyone was curious. And I would love to hear in the comment box below how minimalism has changed your life. I'm Tim. Thanks for watching.